All right, we're live again. Hopefully it works this time. I'm here with Devon Graham. What's up?
What's up, man? What's up?
Nothing much. Just got home from seeing Halloween 2018. Uh it was a movie.
For
Uh
sure.
dude, what is that sound?
Sorry, I was just packing my cigarettes.
Oh, you were waking up the cancer.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, level 3 is here in the chat. He says, "And we're back." Yeah, Devon Graham had a few problems. Uh but we're back. So I give this movie. Okay, I think I give it a 5 out of 10. Uh, it wasn't the movie I was expecting. Uh, but I get what they were trying to do. You know what I mean?
hmm I,
Yeah,
I I think I think that's fair. Um, it wasn't what I was expecting either. Um, I walked away enjoying it. I like it more than an abundance of the sequels, but there were a
yeah,
lot of things that I had problems with for sure.
definitely. I hated how Lori was really whiny at the start. She's like, "Oh man, like I mean, at least they gave her a bit of character, and that's more than you see from a lot of the current Marvel comics where they have no flaws. Like at least she
Yeah,
had flaws, but she was just a little too whiny for me. But uh my biggest hatred for the movie was just that her house was like some crazy like booby traps, like wires everywhere, and I didn't
yeah,
like that. It took away from like I know I'm jumping right to the end, but like when he's in the house and she's like chasing him around, she has a gun, she's ready for him, and then every room is booby trapped, so she knows he's not in there. She just hits a button and it seals it off. I'm like,
yeah.
come on, that takes away from the like he can be anywhere part of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, man. Actually, that's what I was thinking about earlier today. They completely just missed the whole like boogeyman aspect of the original, and like that when they were making this movie, they were talking about paying respects to the original. They wanted to model it after that. They just completely took that away from this movie. There is no boogeyman like is he there, is he not there vibe at all in the movie. They just completely missed that, and that was really disappointing for me.
Yeah. Now, I felt like the first 20 minutes, I feel after the first 20 minutes it gets better, but the first 20 minutes to the rest of the movie, it feels a little bit like two different movies. But
Yeah,
I did like that they killed off those two uh what's the word I'm looking for? Those two like reporter people at the start that they had that
oh yeah,
podcast or
yeah, yeah.
whatever. I love that they died.
Yeah, no, same here. I didn't from the previews from the trailers and stuff. I wasn't sold on them like throughout. I didn't want to see them throughout the movie. And as like the production kind of progressed, I got the vibe that they would be dying. So I'm glad they went that route. I didn't latch on to them at all.
Yeah, I kind of figured they would because in the trailer, in one of them, I think it's the first trailer, you could see that he has those teeth that he like puts over the stall of the bathroom door, and I mean it's the same lady, so I kind of figured she'd die,
Yeah,
but I was like super happy when it happened. I was like, yes, they didn't cuck out.
yeah, exactly. I was actually really disappointed that they never. I wanted her granddaughter's boyfriend to die, the one who threw her phone in the
Oh
pudding or
yeah,
whatever. They never did anything with that, and I was like a little disappointed with that. I was like, oh, I wanted him to die. He's a dick.
yeah, and I think they uh talked down to the audience a little at the start too. With I feel those people, their only purpose was just to get the audience caught up. Like they were asking Lori questions they already knew. Like they sat down to interview her and they were like, "So Lori, since the first movie, you've had like two marriages and you got divorced in both of them, and like your daughter and like your granddaughter, you like never see them." And I was like, "Oh man."
Yeah,
I was like, "That's the game we're playing."
yeah, exactly. That wasn't Yeah, see, one my first thought when I left the movie, and I mean, I don't know that you agree with this. Not a lot of people do, but I like H2O a lot better than this movie. I actually really love that movie, and like with her granddaughter and her daughter, I never got into those characters, and I never felt like a develop like the way you just said, the way they just kind of spelled it out. Like
Yeah.
in H2O, I just got that vibe from their interactions, and it fleshed out a little bit better to me. Because yeah, I mean, I thought her daughter was kind of just a waste of a character.
I hated her voice so much, man.
Oh
And
yeah,
I hated that whole part where she's like takes 30 seconds to recap her childhood, and I'm like, her daughter pretty much already knows this or should know it. Like, I hate when they talk to the audience that way instead of like that clip there would have been perfect right at the end. Well, not the very end, but towards the end, in the last like 20 or 30 minutes when they're at the house and you see like the basement and all that. And she's like,
yeah,
yeah, this was my childhood. Perfect time to put in the flashbacks. I don't know how they missed the mark that bad. Like how nobody thought of that.
yeah. That would have been better. I agree.
Yeah. But there were some solid parts though. I don't want it to seem like we just hate the movie. I
No,
think
we're just discussing the ending, which I have a lot of problems with, so that's fine. There was a lot of great things. I mean, I liked the kills in the movie. They were
oh,
pretty
they were top
brutal.
notch.
They were. Um, I like that he didn't hold back with that kid. You know, that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
that actually set up some good tension later when he was in the house with the baby. So I think that was executed pretty well.
Yeah. I actually gasped when he killed the kid. I was like, yes, they went there. Like they weren't holding any punches. Like they went 100% on like they weren't going to hold back on anything. But I think my favorite part was when I forget his name, that real tubby kid, her friend, when he died and he's like on the fence, you know. And my
Hmm.
favorite part is like right after that when she sees him and then Michael comes into view and the music starts playing and she just
Yeah,
starts screaming like crazy. And I was like, oh man, I was like that. That
it was
was like my
phenomenal.
favorite part. Like everything about that was great.
Yeah, that all that was great too. Yeah, I agree. I liked that part as well. Um,
Yeah.
what did you think about the score?
Score was I really liked it. I think it was about as good as it could have been.
Yeah, yeah, I think I agree with that. I thought it fit the movie really well. I thought it worked in all its places. I was hoping for a few more like kind of callbacks to the original score, but
Yeah.
I can understand why they wouldn't do that, and I don't think that what they did was lackluster. I was listening to it isolated yesterday, and it has like a real post rocky kind of sound to it. So I don't know if that's more his son or what he's developed into over the years, but I think it worked for the movie pretty well, honestly.
I don't know. I think maybe he might have been I think that might be what he developed into cuz I think in the credits they bill his name first, then
Yeah,
his son. So,
yeah. It's possible. I mean, I don't follow what his son does or anything like that, so
yeah,
I'm
me
not sure
too.
of. I'm not sure of. You know, I know his music from like the '80s. From Prince to
Yeah.
Darkness and The Thing and all that. So that's what I'm used to when I think of his music.
Yeah. Um So I think the best part of the movie was personally, um, okay, so Allison's in the back of the cop car, and I'm like, where are they going with this? Like, how are we getting to the final showdown? And then, uh, she sees him, and she's like pointing him out to the cop and to the doctor, and the cop's like, he says something along the lines of like, brace yourselves or hold on to something, blah blah blah, and he goes and hits him, and then as soon as he opens the door to get out, I was like, oh man, this is what they're doing. Another one of these where you got the damsel. Like every movie does this. The damsel is like in the back of the cop car. The cop thinks the murderer is dead. Cop goes down. But then they threw us the twist because then the doctor kills the cop. I did not see that coming. The cop's like, move away. He's got the gun pointed. And then the doctor, he's saying whatever to distract him. He pulls out a knife, turns around, bam, right in the neck. I was like, oh man, I did not see that coming. That
Yeah,
was
that
awesome.
they really did a Ryan Johnson there for sure. I that part really fucked with me. I didn't really care for it because it didn't really do anything for me, and it was strange. Like, and I remember like because okay, when it first happened, right? I had this like hope in my chest, like as stupid as it is, like I was just like, please let that just be Ben Tramer that they ran over. So it's just like Halloween 2.
Yes.
I wanted it to be that, but it was
Right. I didn't even think of that.
yeah, it was. I mean, it was a little strange with that doctor like putting on the mask and everything. Like, um, I mean, it was a strange twist, you know. But um, at the same time, I know that that's kind of going throughout the movie with those podcasters and with the doctor. They're like obsessed with Michael and they want to provoke him or get him to say something, you know. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty crazy, but I'm glad they didn't. You know, I didn't I wouldn't under any circumstance think they would actually make him talk. You know, but I like what he did, the way he squished his head. That was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I love that. When he's like, say something, and I was like, and they just show Michael, and I'm like, is he gonna say something? And in my head, I'm like, well, what would he say? And then I'm like halfway through my thought, and then all of a sudden he just puts the boot down on the dude's head, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty awesome. Um, what was I going to say about relation to that? Um, Shit, I forgot. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Dude, I feel the best character, and I always have this thing I say because it's true, because my favorite character always dies. But I think the Vicky character, I think she was probably like the best actress in the movie, honestly. Like she felt really natural, like she didn't feel like acting. And I actually liked her chemistry with Allison. Uh I feel they had some of the best like just character development. Those two, whenever they had a moment together or just talk to each other on the phone, I feel those were that was it was just good writing, good character development. And oh man, the kid she was babysitting, I hope he made it out all right. Like
Oh yeah, they just completely went over that. I mean, I'm sure that's probably what happened. They
yeah,
didn't
I'm
show
like
what happened
I'm
to
like
him.
100% sure.
Actually, yeah, no. I was trying to think of because I forgot her name as you were talking about her. But yeah, no, I thought she was pretty well fleshed out. I loved her interaction with the kid. You know, that was pretty funny
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, she is probably one of the better written characters in the movie. I agree. Uh,
Yeah.
I didn't because I mean, seeing like the images or even the trailer with the ghost sheet, next to
Yeah.
the tank. I didn't know who it was going to be really. Um, I guess by the time I was watching the movie, everything kind of pieced it together. But I do like that. I do like the whole because Michael was like that in the original, where he kind of does these little, uh, the way he puts his victims together, puts
Yeah.
them on the wall and shit. So I liked that. I liked that they did that too. The way I like how he did the cop's head, the way he just hollowed it out and carved his face, put the
Oh
light
man,
in his
I
head.
love the dude's jaw. The way he like tore that off, the dude at that like gas station. That
That
was
was crazy.
awesome.
Yeah, that
Well, I
was pretty
mean, we
cool.
didn't even see it. We just saw how it looked, but I really
Yeah,
liked just how it looked. It looked like it was just unsettling.
yeah,
So, do you think
yeah,
there's any room in this for a sequel?
yeah. That's absolutely. I mean, the way they ended it just kind of gave it that. I actually heard someone talking about this. Did you stay for any like post credit things?
I stayed for pretty much all the credits, but I didn't see any clipped. Was there one?
I didn't stay, but somebody told me that I guess it was after everything had ended with the credits that at the end you just hear him breathing. So
Oh,
that's the same way that they ended the original too. So I mean that was actually a little bit of a letdown for me, like because I knew they were going to want to do a sequel, which is fine. I don't have anything against it, but um, that was another reason why H2O kind of surpasses it for me is because after all the stuff that she did, like all the way she set up that house and all
yeah.
the preparation she had for 40 years, I just thought it was a little strange that she would just trap him and set the house on fire and walk away. Like it just didn't seem as believable to me. Like because in H2O, even after he falls and she stabs him and all this shit that happens,
Yeah.
she goes to the point of like holding up everybody with a gun because she wants to take him somewhere and make it definitive that he's dead. And the ending to H2O to me is like the best ending for the series. But I understand that they probably went that route because they want to leave it open for sequels, and I'm not sure what they might have done originally because there was some talk a few months ago that they had test screenings and there was complaints about the ending, and then they did reshoots. So I don't know what their original ending might have been if they did in fact have one, but I think that the ending was fitting for leaving a sequel open for sure.
Yeah.
And it was cool imagery, like just seeing him in the basement with the fire and all that, and it was pretty cool.
So I think the worst part about the ending is, oh man, so they're on the hidden stairs, and and he's pulling on Allison, and they're like blah blah blah. It's like, oh, is he gonna get her? Are they gonna free her? And then right as she's free, they hit a lever, and then spikes go out that trap him down there. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, come on. She did not think of that. Maybe she did, but either way, that pissed me off. Just all the booby traps and all the like hidden things she has around her house. I get it. She's paranoid, but
yeah,
oh man, that took away from any sort of feel for the movie, because that's why I like slasher movies the most. Is you're never safe. They could be anywhere. That's why I like it more than ghost movies. Some ghost movies, probably most of them are pretty terrifying, especially to me. I get scared easy, but in a ghost movie, I always know in the back of my head, I'm like, they can walk out and the movie's over. Like, I don't get why they keep coming back here, but
hmm
in Halloween, in any sort of slasher movie, it's like he can be anywhere. So
yeah,
they really just messed up that whole vibe for me with all the booby traps, and she's like closing off sections of the home. She's got fences everywhere. I'm just like, eh. But I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
guess it was all right for what they tried to do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a little silly, I guess. Uh, like I said, from the beginning, it wasn't what I expected. I'm not even sure off the top of my head what could have been necessarily better. I mean, I just gravitate towards H2O being a better showdown than this one. But yeah, because one of the things that I really was disappointed with, for me personally, is I just felt that this movie had little to no tension, and on top of that, it had like no atmosphere, which is what John Carpenter movies are usually like filled with.
Oh,
So
definitely.
that was a little disappointing for me, like because like when I look back at this, because I need to rewatch it for sure, and I hope to in the next few days or so. But um, when I look at this movie, I just think that it's a much better sequel than a lot of them.
Yeah.
It falls at, if I did a ranking, it would fall like at my number four, because I can watch all the Halloween movies and find enjoyment in all of them. Maybe except for the Rob Zombie ones; those ones are kind of hard for me to get through. But
It's mostly the
all
second Rob Zombie one that I don't think I could sit through that a second time.
yeah, the problem for me with that one is just I cannot listen to Scott Taylor Compton talk in that movie. It's she's insufferable to me. She ruins it. Like I like what I liked his original kind of idea of what he wanted to do in that movie, but it's ruined by her for me. I can't sit through it. I try, and it's so annoying. Like more annoying than like a crying baby for me personally. It's hard to get through. But
So
I think it's better than most of the sequels. The new one, I mean, because I mean I don't love the Thorn trilogy. I can watch them, but I don't love them. But this one, one of the best things about this one for sure is Michael Myers himself. James Jude Courtney was amazing as Michael.
yeah, he was just terrifying. Like,
Yeah,
oh man,
like I love just his entire like. I think my favorite part of the movie is probably just him going house to house, just randomly killing people. It's
yeah,
from
that
the
was
start
fun to
of
watch.
going in the garage and shit. Like all of that was just awesome.
Yeah. Um, so not Luke Skywalker or Luke not Skywalker in the chat says, is it SJW? That's the big question. Hashtag believe all women. Hashtag resist.
No,
No, it wasn't.
it wasn't. Thank God, because Jamie Lee Curtis, she can be like that a lot, and she
Oh
kind of
yeah.
tried. She kind of tried to, kind of, like she tried to compare some of the things in the movie to like the Me Too movement and stuff. And there's some things in the movie that I guess you could kind of relate to that, but they're not like ham-fisted, like agenda-driven or like just put in there for the fuck of it. They make sense. They're effective. Like the scene where
Yeah.
she's waiting outside the prison as the bus is leaving. That's pretty gnarly. It's pretty. emotional, I guess. Um, I did think that that was well placed. Nothing feels like forced or like like there's an agenda behind it. Nothing like that. Thank God.
Yeah. Um, but it really did need that tension. Like now you got me thinking like that. That's probably the best point in all this is there wasn't much of that tension or atmosphere. Like the
Yeah,
first one, it just like gets you right from the opening. Like
yeah,
you feel it. You're like, this place is creepy. The whole thing is the whole town's unnerving, and especially with that little music that's playing. And
yeah.
I mean, you just look at the town and you're a little creeped out. But in this
Hmm.
one, it wasn't so much like that. It's like Lori, I mean, for the most part, is like Miss Super Perfect Awesome Girl. Like outside of like the one scene where she has a drinking problem and she drinks like half a glass of wine. But like outside of that, it's like I
Yeah,
don't know. She was just Miss Super Perfect Awesome instead of like the nerdy little sister, kind of like she was in the first one.
yeah,
Um, I think it would have been better if I don't know, maybe if they focused on Allison a little more because I guess in some ways she's supposed to be the focal point of the movie. In some ways, it's almost
yeah.
her movie. It's really nobody's movie. Like it, I feel they weren't quite sure exactly what they were trying to do at some points. So,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I kind of think of it as it's 50-50. Maybe it's not her movie, but to me I kind of view it as Allison's movie. I think it would have been a little better if they focused on her. Like I mean, they killed her friend and we don't even get to see her reaction to that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that was a little annoying for me.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about kind of the way they don't really decide what they're trying to do, because I know I felt this way watching it, and I've heard a lot of people say this too, is that every time that you weren't watching Lori, it was kind of lesser. Like it's just like, can we just go back to watching Lori because it wasn't as interesting. That has a lot to do with the fact that I guess we have a lot of investment in Lori to begin with, and we already kind of know her. Because I never got to know her daughter or her granddaughter well enough to attach to them, and they could have put a little more attention on Allison and developed it to make it more focal to her. I agree, because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of missed opportunities there, and you're right, they didn't give any reaction. It was just when I'm thinking about it, trying to recollect, it's like, okay, I saw her hanging out with her friends, saw her dance, saw her talk to her mom, argue with her mom at the restaurant, and then the next thing I know, she's leaving the dance and she's running around in her grandma's backyard,
Right. And
I
of
can
course the
forget where.
boyfriend is like, "Oh, he's cool in front of the parents." And then when he's not with them, he's like a drunk little weirdo. Like
Yeah,
of course
yeah,
they threw that in.
yeah. I know that. I don't know. Yeah, that was, I guess, typical. That's a little tropey, I guess, and which is fine. It didn't bother me, but again, I didn't get the payoff with seeing anything happen to her boyfriend. That would have been cool.
Right.
But
Like I would have been fine with that being a little tropey if they had just done something with him. Like the last time we see him, he like throws her phone away. So they have a perfect excuse for her to be phoneless in 2018. And then it's like that was his only purpose in the whole movie. It's like we set up this guy, we set up who he is just for him to throw a phone into uh a thing of pudding. Like
yeah,
really?
they should have replaced him in the scene where she's walking home with her friend, like, because that's like there's
Right.
barely any it's like he's just there to walk her home, and kind of give you that vibe that he has a crush on her, and then get rejected and then die. Like his death was cool, but it should have just been the boyfriend said. He should have just been following her and
Right.
arguing with her,
Right. He
and
should have been like, I'm sorry the whole time. And then it would have worked a lot better. We would have actually felt something. But
yeah,
I don't know. The tubby dude, I loved his death and I loved the scene like immediately after. Like I said, like that was my favorite part where
yeah,
she goes back to him, sees Michael, the music plays, and she's just screaming. I love that. But it would have
yeah,
been a lot more dramatic if it were the boyfriend.
yeah. That's just yeah. That would have been. It seems more like it makes sense, but um, another thing I wanted to ask you is, I'm not sure how how much you know all the sequels and stuff, but did you catch a lot of the different kind of tributes to the sequels in the movie?
Um, well, I caught a few things, but not many. I mean, I've seen the sequels, but I'm not really like that into them. It gets a little much when it's like, and then she chops off his head with an axe, but then it wasn't him, and it's like he got shot 6 times. Oh, but then he's back, and like that.
Yeah.
That stuff annoys me, so I don't really like pay much
Yeah, no,
attention to those.
that's fine. If all you were to say at the end of the day is that you just like the original, that's fine because none of the sequels are close to it in quality. Um,
Yeah.
but it was cool. There's a lot of different nods. One that I don't really feel I've heard a lot of people bring up that I noticed is that at the very end the last shot is her daughter holding the knife just like her daughter Jamie did at the end of Halloween 4. So I didn't hear a lot of people bring that one up, but I noticed that. And um, do you like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch?
Oh, that's actually the only one I didn't see because
Oh wow, yeah. You
because
should see it sometime because it is actually a really good movie for what it is. It's pretty fun. But they have all the masks from that movie. Trick or treaters are wearing it in the scene where he's going through the neighborhood. So that's kind of cool.
yeah, that's the I didn't see that because when I was new to horror and I was in some Facebook groups and I seen people talking about the movies and they were like listing their favorite ones or whatever, favorite Halloween movies in order, but no one was really putting three, or I only seen a couple that had three, and I was like, what's up with three? And people are like, oh well, it has nothing to do with Michael, it's blah blah blah. They try to make it an anthology, you already know whatever
Yeah.
else, but
No.
so
Yeah.
but
You
it
know, growing up, I had the weirdest perspective on that movie or idea or whatever because I asked my mom because I watched him when I was a little kid and I was like, I watched Halloween 1 and 2 and I was like, I asked my mom, is there a Halloween 3? And she's like, oh, that movie has nothing to do with Michael Myers. It's not even a part of the franchise. And when she said that, I interpreted it as if they made a Halloween 1 and 2 and skipped to 4, and there was this entire other franchise called Halloween, and that Halloween 3 belonged to that one. So I just always grew up thinking that it did not have any like it doesn't have anything to do with Michael, but it is actually a part of the franchise. And I didn't watch it until last year, but I did love it when I saw it. It was actually really good.
Yeah, so I've really just seen the other ones. It was a couple of people told me like they were just like you don't really need to watch it to understand the rest of the franchise because I
No,
think I'd only seen like the first one at that point, and
yeah,
some people
it,
were like I didn't like it, so I just kind of skipped it.
yeah, it's gained a cult following, but it's not for everybody. And there's nothing in that movie that relates to the franchise. You absolutely don't have to watch it. It's nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean I might check it out eventually.
Yeah, you should. You might like it. I mean, if you like just kind of '80s kind of B movie kind of stuff, it's not
Yeah,
different in terms of quality of a movie like Friday the 13th or something. It's kind of got that vibe, but it's got
yeah,
John Carpenter esque atmosphere. He did the score for it, and he had some part in the making of it. He didn't direct it, but yeah, if you like John Carpenter, you'll appreciate it for sure.
yeah. But back to like the ending with like the knife in her hand. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that for some reason like made me think like they're gonna find a way to do a sequel, like just the way they ended it. Uh, well, not only just like the knife, but like the way they had showed what's it called, the like the cellar with like the spikes, and he's like not there in that scene in that
Mm-hmm.
part, even though it's
Yeah.
all on fire. Then they show the knife, and I'm just like, it kind of gave me like a little signal, like they're not done yet, like something else is
Yeah.
about to happen.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I haven't read this, but I think I heard that they are already in the production of, or not production, but like they are already like planning it. So I mean, I don't know if you've read this today, but like it looks like it's going to actually break the record for October, even surpassing Venom possibly. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's definitely going to get a sequel. They're not going to ignore the chance at making more money. And
Yeah,
the thing is though is that I can only wonder what kind of sequel will it be, like because first of all, like I don't I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis has any intention or interest in coming back. I think she may have stated at some points that this is the last one possibly, but
I think I remember hearing that too.
yeah, because I'm sure they're smart enough to not do anything stupid like they did in Resurrection with her. But I'm wondering what they could possibly do for a sequel. Because if Michael's already in his 60s or wherever he's at, he's 21 in Halloween. So this is 40 years later. What's that? 60, right? 60. He'd be
Yeah, about
61.
so. 61.
Yeah. So I mean, he was great. He didn't come off like he was old and like slow or anything. So I mean, it's not that I can't believe him being in more movies, but if they do a sequel, I hope that they do something interesting with it and not just like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because when they first kind of announced this movie and they hadn't given out like a plot synopsis or anything, it was kind of like, okay, well, either they're going to say that he got caught on the night in 78 or that he's always been out there. And that's what they did with Halloween H2O. And I like that. I know it's like hard for some people to believe, like, oh, what would he have been doing all that time or whatever. But, um, you know, uh, I don't know. I'm interested to see if they could come up with a good idea for a sequel and not just like some, like insert Michael into a slasher with no like real good plot or anything.
Yeah, I really don't know what they would do for a sequel, but I mean, if they do one, I hope that it focuses more on somebody other than Lori because I feel
Yeah.
they've pretty much done everything they can with her, like with
Yeah.
throughout all these sequels. So I mean, I
Yeah.
hope they
She's
focus on the
done it.
granddaughter a little more.
Yeah. I mean, if they want to, just maybe whatever they say happened to Lori, maybe she just, I don't know, they could just not mention her, just not have her in the movie at all. Um, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't find too much I attached myself to with her granddaughter, but if they want to go the route with her granddaughter, I mean, I don't know. They would have to make her a more interesting character for me, I guess. Even a Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 was more interesting. I mean, a lot more, really.
Yeah,
But they'd have to do something interesting with their character, develop it better. But I mean, I'm not like any kind of a like purist with these kind of things. I
yeah.
can enjoy just seeing Michael Myers kill people. So, I'll be game for it. Um, I just I'm just a little. I'm pretty clueless right now of what they could do
I
for
think I'd almost rather they don't do a sequel. I think usually horror movie sequels are pretty weak. Uh, they're
usually.
Yeah, I mean there are some exceptions, but I feel okay, maybe with the first sequel it was almost understandable. I mean like a lot of it's set in like the hospital, right? So I
Yeah.
mean a lot of it's understandable like well okay, well what did happen next? Cuz it was sort of an open ending, but
Yeah.
in cases like this it's like don't please just don't.
Yeah. No, they don't need to, and if they don't, I won't be mad about it. It's fine. I do love Halloween too, because that was one thing. That's one thing I forgot to mention actually, because when they first announced this movie last year, I think it was when they started talking about the production and the casting, all that. They originally said that this movie was going to follow Halloween 2, which I was pretty excited for because I love Halloween 2, and I liked the idea of going that route because I've always just liked the brother sister thing. I just grew up with it, but at the same time, when they kind of changed their mind on that and just wanted to follow it as if they weren't related, I could appreciate that, and I could understand like the route they wanted to go, and they actually did that in this movie, which I liked, is that they never made it feel like Michael really gave a shit about Laurie. Like that wasn't what he was in his intention was, because when he goes back, like with the way the doctor turned out to be, they were just manipulating him and trying to set up that scenario of him interacting with Laurie, because he was going through the houses. He wasn't trying to find Laurie or anything. They were the ones who found him. And sorry, there's the ice cream truck passing. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, I could
It's a
hear
little
it.
loud. So what I was saying is that Laurie, they just kind of manipulated it to where they brought him to her house. So I appreciated that they
Yeah.
didn't make it to where like he's specifically driven to Laurie, because that was never the intention even in the first one. It just kind of she just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and kind of
Right.
uh, so I appreciated that they did that if they were going to take away the brother and sister thing. Um, yeah, I mean, I do really love Halloween too, and I like that angle. you know, I usually like to watch the TV version of Halloween. Have you seen that version?
Uh, I don't I really don't know.
Yeah, the
What's the
TV
difference
version.
between that and the regular version?
The TV version has a couple of added scenes. The like the one of the first ones is they show Dr. Loomis talking to Michael at the sanitarium when he's a little boy, and he's just like staring out of a window. That's a pretty cool scene. And then there's a scene later where Michael, like when you know the time skip has passed, that Michael is he broke into a school and he wrote uh, something like I can't remember if it was specifically the word sister, but you know they introduced that concept in the TV version.
No,
Um,
I don't think I've seen that. So now I
yeah,
have to.
yeah. It's out there. It's pretty accessible, you know. So that's usually the version I watch, just because I do like the brother sister thing. I think it's cool because it gives a lot of weight when I watch like Halloween H2O. So that's my trilogy. I like Halloween 1, 2, and H2O. That's my kind of canon that I follow.
Yeah. I think the one thing, well, not the one thing, one of the things that they did wrong was they made Lori in this one so hung up on Michael, like oh no, it's been 40 years and every night I pray that he escapes so I could kill him myself. I feel like, man, the atmosphere would have been so much better if they changed that up. And like he just, like you said, he just happens, like they just happen to lead him there, like to her house at the end. Like he just happens to arrive there. Like most of it, I well, maybe not most of it, but a good part of it is just chance that he ends up there. Like he was
Yeah,
mostly never after her. He didn't really care. He just
yeah,
sort of ended up there. And I think it would have been a lot more intense if she were almost the same way. She like really didn't care, like she wasn't so obsessed. Like you see her telling her granddaughter like here's 3 grand, take a vacation or something. Like why didn't she follow her own rules? Like she's just hung up on it the whole time. Like if
yeah.
I were her and after the first movie I would have been gone. Like I would have been headed for California or something. I would have gotten as far away as possible.
It's hilarious. That's exactly what she does in H2O. She moves to California, so that's funny.
Well, yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, like, I can't. I have to throw that out because well, I mean, in this instance, I do because it's not canon anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel what you're saying. I think that yeah, that's a good point too. For me, like I can relate to that a lot, just because considering the way they wanted to go with her character and kind of make her this like obsessive like person about the whole instances, I just felt like I wanted a little bit more. I guess I wanted a little bit more to justify that. You know that if she's
Yeah,
gonna have spent these last 40 years being that way, I needed a little more convincing that it
they
affected
could have
her.
justified that if they left them as being siblings.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I can appreciate what they wanted to do, but I don't prefer that they took that out because I liked that angle a lot. I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, that would have made it a lot more intense. Like it would, and a lot more believable too. If I mean, it's just I felt nothing like if most people that happens to were like there's a murder, blah blah, a bunch of people they know get killed. I mean, most people try to distance themselves, but she was. I mean, I would have understood. I mean, if they left them as being siblings, but it's like, okay, you guys aren't related. It was a real wild time. 5 people or whatever died. I mean, she should have just been gone. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't make much sense to me. I would understand though if she's like, oh well, he's my brother and this and that and family stuff. That would have been understandable, but
yeah, and
I don't
you
know.
know, I know I kind of keep making this comparison, but it just it relates to it because like I remember watching H2O, like the scene where she's talking to the this teacher that she's dating, and she's
Yeah,
telling him about what happened. And I remember the part where she just tells him like, you know, he killed my friends, and it felt like it just made it so much more realistic. I was like, you know, like wow, like that has to be so traumatic to know that your two friends that you probably grew up with in school were just murdered like senselessly that night, and how it would affect you. And you know, I believed like nothing against the strong woman or whatever. It's fine because she was an H2O anyway. She overcame it, but
Yeah.
I liked the kind of trauma that she was going through in H2O, the way she would drink and like the way she would kind of project like her frustration and paranoia on her son. It like I just bought it so much more in that movie, and I didn't buy it as much in this movie. She almost like came off like some kooky old lady in this movie. You know what I mean?
Right. Like kooky old like super miss perfect awesome person. Like that's like I mean, I wish they would have gave her better flaws than the way they did. Like I appreciate that she was like, like the strong female lead whatever, but and that's all fine and good, but she just
Yeah,
needed more of like a character in this movie. Like I feel
yeah,
she had character in pretty much every single one of the other ones except for this one. Like they just had her doing an entirely different person, an entirely different role. Which I mean, I understand like in most ways it is an entirely new role, but she was just lacking a lot of just passion, I think, for the role.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that too. I mean, um, I can't say for sure. Hold on, I'm sorry. 1 second. Give me a second.
It's okay. So during that second, I'm just gonna share my screen and I'm gonna show everybody Brutus on Indiegogo. Do do do.
Yeah, I'm back. Let's check out Brutus though.
All right, sweet you guys. So here's Brutus on Indiegogo. It's a very high tea book, and the link is in the description. And I put the link in the chat. It's a very high tea book. It's about Brutus, who's a bounty hunter. He's lost his memory, and so he has no idea anything about his past, no idea where he's come from. And during his latest hunt, his past comes for him to hunt him down. And let me find it. Here we go. He's got his sidekick here named Gideon, who's a psychotic little robot that thinks he's a human. So if you guys want to check it out, our lowest entry point is $8 for the digital copy. Hard copies start at $25, and the more you spend, the better it gets. You could get original art. You could even get drawn into the book. There's a thank you page and a lot of other cool stuff to check out. Anyways, back to the review.
I just got to say that I really, really love that Kelsey Shannon cover. It's pretty amazing.
Oh man, same. I love his colors. Oh man, I wish
Yeah,
he could have colored the interiors too. But the colorist
yeah,
we're hiring is pretty good. I actually don't really know him. Donald knows him, but I've seen
mhm,
I've seen some of his work and I actually really like it.
yeah. I'm sure it's going to be great. Um, I forgot what point we were on.
Uh about her like not having much passion for this role,
Yeah, yeah.
like she I wouldn't say phoned it in, but she like half-hearted. She was going half-hearted, I feel.
Yeah, I think that there's truth to that, and I do think that some of it was the fault in the writing too. I do
Oh,
think that
definitely.
there's some blame to put there too, because I just feel like there's a lot of things that they really could have done here that they just didn't do. Either that they changed their mind on, or they just completely like just thought past it and didn't even consider it. Because there's a lot of things that they really could have done here that they just completely skipped over. Namely, like I said earlier, this movie just lacks atmosphere. Um, Nothing. There's never a vibe in this movie. Did you see Hereditary already? Did you see it yet?
No, it's on my list. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's not on Netflix yet.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that movie. I'm not gonna go into the plot or anything, but that movie is just completely potent with atmosphere, and I remember like just earlier this year thinking, oh, this movie was amazing. It was a masterpiece, and I loved it. But I'm pretty sure Halloween's going to be better. It's not even close. It's not even
Yeah.
close to being better. It's
Oh
good.
man.
I enjoyed it, but no,
And
yeah, it
and
missed up.
it's like how many drafts do you think they do of like a Hollywood movie script? Like at least 10, right? So it's like how did like this is like the best they could come up with at the end. Like I mean it
Yeah,
got past the writers several times, director, editor, staff, blah blah, the actors, actresses, everybody had to read it and everyone was on board. Like nobody ever spoke up this could be better.
yeah. Kind of going back to something you said earlier, I do think that there's a possibility that there's a few different ideas for the movie kind of mixed in here together, like people wanted different things. because it does feel like
Yeah.
there's like two different kind of movies going on here, in some ways. So, maybe I wouldn't go as far as to say that they just played it safe, but they didn't take I don't want to even say that they didn't take chances. It's just that um, it feels very small when it could have been much more grand. That's how
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, they definitely took chances. They took risks, but it's just there's just like a real core part of the movie that's just missing for me that would have made it great. And I think it goes back to there was almost no atmosphere and almost no tension. It was just like he's escaped. He, for the most part, kills people we don't really care for. Sure, he killed a couple people that I guess mattered, but uh, there was just almost no tension. It was just he's back and now he's in Lori's like super ultra amazing house that she's booby trapped, and it's like I'm
Yeah.
like, ah, come on. But I don't want it to seem like I hated it. Like there, well, I don't really love it, but I do give it like a 5 because I guess what they intended to do was all right. So it's like it's decent, but
Yeah.
it could have been a solid 10 if they just gave it some improvements. Like if they took away that whole like booby trapped awesome house, like if they took that
Yeah.
aspect away, it's like I don't know. It's a whole. It's a lot better of a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would probably be willing to give it like a light 7, something like that, just because when I think about the other sequels in the franchise, I like it a lot more than most of them. Um, because okay, I remember when I was watching it, like a few minutes into it, just like 2 or 3 minutes in, I was like, okay, so you're not going to do the like trying to recreate John Carpenter's vibe here. You're just going to do something more modern because I have you seen the movie It Follows?
Um, no, but I pretty much know what happens.
Yeah, it's a good movie, but um, that movie like is just like complete like tribute to that kind of style of directing, like with John Carpenter and stuff. And I wasn't expecting to them to copy it or anything, but they didn't have that kind of style going on in this movie at all. With the exception of maybe like the uh, the kind of tracking shot they did when he went through the house and killed. It's supposed to be kind of a tribute to Halloween too, I guess. With the exception of that, it didn't really have it didn't have any John Carpenter feel or atmosphere at all. And I thought that's what they said they were going to try to do, or at least wanted to do. But I guess they just maybe pay respects to I guess the premise of the original, but not so much like the atmosphere, the style at all. So I mean, very quickly in the movie, I realized like, oh, okay, we're not gonna actually try to recreate John Carpenter's vibe.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess I'm fine with. I just wish it would have had better atmosphere. That's I think is probably the biggest takeaway. I don't know. I think my favorite part of like of when I sat in the theater, honestly, was seeing the trailer for Pet Cemetery.
Oh man, I have seen it. I've seen the trailer for Pet Cemetery, but I've heard people say they saw that trailer at the theaters, and I was like, I didn't get that one though. I didn't get that at
Oh,
all.
you didn't?
No, I got like Happy Death Day 2, and
Oh, that. Oh man.
yeah, I don't watch that first movie. It seems stupid, but
Yeah, I
um,
didn't watch it. It did look kind of dumb, but
yeah,
the trailer for the second one just makes me nope out of like the whole franchise. Like I'm probably never gonna watch the first one.
yeah, no, it had to be a real, real rainy day for me to want to watch that movie, honestly. But
Right.
yeah, I saw the trailer for Glass and the trailer for shit. I don't even remember. Oh, Suspiria. I saw that one too.
Oh
But I've seen
man.
that one. I've seen that one a couple times at different movies I've seen.
Happy Death Day is like the movie you see. How do I even want to put this? It's like I don't know. You're on like winter break or something, and you're at home, and you're just like on the couch watching TV, and it's an absolutely dreary day, nothing to do, no one to talk to. You're just flipping through channels. It's like the last thing on, and you catch like the middle 10 minutes, and then you turn it off and just call it a day. Like that's Happy Death Day. That's how I picture it. But
Yeah,
oh
no,
man, the Pet Cemetery. Oh man, that trailer looked super cool. They're definitely doing things different from the book
yeah,
and from the first movie.
yeah,
but I really like the differences I've seen. Like it looks genuinely terrifying, or at least just a lot creepier than like the book didn't scare me. I like the book. Uh, the movie, I guess it was all right. I mean, it was like almost a carbon copy of the book.
Yeah.
And it didn't do anything new, so it was just okay, I guess.
Uh-huh.
At an attempt of a movie. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I really, yeah, I love the book. I do love that movie. I grew up with it, and there's a lot of things I think that they did in that movie that kind of separate it from other horror movies of its time. But
you
I'm
there?
really, yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
think you
Can you hear
cut
me?
out for a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, I was just saying, I do love the original movie, and I do love the book, but I do think the new movie looks amazing, and I honestly think that all they can do is improve on it, and I think that they will. I think that I'm excited for John Lithgow. I think he's a great actor. But yeah, the
Yeah.
trailer looks awesome. Looks great.
Yeah, yeah, it looks great. I can't wait for that one. That one's one I'm really excited for next year. I like the a lot of in recent horror what they've been trying to do, like just doing different things. Uh,
Hmm.
I've, I mean, it's not like someone on one of my videos the other day in the comments said like, "Oh, we're in a golden age of horror movies." I wouldn't say that, but I at least like that they're trying to do different things, like A Quiet Place. Uh,
Hmm.
I just didn't like the ending of that, but I think I think that was a good movie. It was definitely original. I like some of the chances people have been taking on the new movies.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot of good potential. I mean, I saw a Quiet Place, and what I can say about a Quiet Place for sure is, just to be fair, is it was a very original concept. It was unique. It was very well made. I really didn't like it just because there were things missing from it that I really would have preferred. It's just a personal preference, really. I don't have anything. I'm not going to criticize it like it's a bad movie because it was well done, and I could say like 95% of the people I've talked to about it love that movie. So I'm proud of what it accomplished and what it opens the doors for. Same thing with Hereditary. So I think that there's definitely I would I wouldn't say golden age either, but I think there's some good promise. And I think a lot of it is owed to it from last year. I
Oh,
think that really
definitely.
paved the way a lot because I was excited for that movie. I'm a big fan of the original TV movie. I had no idea that it was going to be that big of a deal, though. Like, I had no idea. Even leading up to it, I didn't think it was going to make the kind of money it did. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Dude, same here. Like I had high hopes. I was like, "Oh, this looks like it's going to be a good movie," but it really did explode. Like especially because there's a lot of people I talk to. I'm like, have you ever seen like the '90s It? And they're like, what's It? And I'm just like, oh. But then like those same people, they're like, they were on Twitter like or Facebook even like months later. They're like, oh my gosh, I just saw It, love it. And I'm just like, okay then, like it did explode. And oh
Yeah.
man, that was such a good movie. I actually just bought it. I don't buy movies often, but
Hmm.
it was like $13 on Blu-ray at Target the other day, and I was just like, well, sure. Like it's one of those movies that you kind of have to buy.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, I'm a big movie collector myself, and when that movie came out on Blu-ray, I went to Best Buy right before they opened, and I went in to get the Steelbook, and I got one of like the five copies they had, and then it sold out like right away. So I was pretty glad to get it. Um, I, I I think it was great too. I mean, I'm extremely uh, anxious for the sequel, and I think
Oh,
the
same
casting looks
here.
pretty good too.
Yeah. But I'm not a big movie buyer just because it could be so expensive. That's why I just wait for Netflix because it's like, I don't
Yeah,
know, $10 a month. And it's like you get all these movies, but then it's like if I ever want to go out and buy a movie, it's like $10 for just that movie. And I'm just like,
yeah,
yeah. And it's like
yeah.
I can't even put it into my computer because there's no CD slot in laptops anymore. So it's like
Really? Oh, wow.
yeah, I have to stream. Like, I mean, I don't like watching stuff on the TV. Like if I put it into the PlayStation or something,
Hmm.
because I don't know. I just don't like when like sex scenes and awkward scenes come up and like my family's there. So
Yeah,
and like horror. I mean, when isn't there that kind of stuff? So
Yeah.
so it's like most that's why I have to wait for Netflix or Hulu just so I could put in my headphones, sit on my bed, and watch it or something.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I get that too. I mean, I've been a movie collector since I was a little kid. I used to have a huge VHS collection, so it's just a hobby for me more than anything. But I feel you on that for sure.
Yeah, but anyways, I think we pretty much covered everything. So I think I'm gonna end this stream now. But so thank you everybody for listening in. And if you haven't checked out Brutus yet, the link is in the description, and I just put it another time in the chat. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Bye, guys.